Hey, and welcome to the Reset Podcast. Everything you need to know that your therapist probably never told you. Researched by experts, real-life experiences. This is Reset. Hey there, and welcome. We are so excited to have you. Today, we're going to sit down and be talking about some parenting stuff. So sit back, relax, and let's dive in.
I don't think a lot of people realize that there's been a ton of studies on parenting, that the gig is up. We now know what kids need. And so I think it'd be awesome today to kind of talk about this study by Dr. Lawrence Steinberg, who kind of figured out, like, what's the top 10 things kids need, and really for any age. It's actually something that in my adolescent psychology class, I talk about and we go over. And here's the key is, so let's say you have kids, you're a parent. I get this is totally for you. But let me challenge the people who don't have kids. So let's say you're, a single young adult, or even, you can be like a teenager, that listening to this list will actually allow you to maybe find a voice, if you need to express to your parents what you need. Or the fact is, if you're married and you want to have kids or try to have kids, this will help prepare you ahead of time, like stuff that we wish we knew before we went into parenthood, right? So no matter where you're at, I think this is good. And if you're like grandma or grandpa and you're past that age of having kids, your grandkids need this as well.
Don't you think every individual needs this, kid or adult?
Well, I think you're going to realize when we go through this list, a lot of this stuff has to do with just relationships in general. And so I think when we go through it, you realize it's just like in my class with all my little teenagers who are freshmen and sophomores and at the university. When they go through this, they realize, man, that stuff is just money. And to be clear, these are actually scientific principles to good parenting. So let's go through them. If you're listening, take notes. I would take notes. You're like, well, I'm walking and listening to you. I'm driving. Okay, then don't take notes. Come back.
We do not encourage unsafe note-taking.
That is right. We don't at all. Okay, so here's the first one that Dr. Steinberg found out, is that what you do matters as a parent. So what the kid is watching you do, what your kid is seeing you do, matters tremendously. And the reason why that is kids can't be what they don't see. And so my cliche or my mantra is become what you want your kid to be. So if you want your kid to be someone who, let's say, values friendships, relationships, or value, let's say, like working out, things like that, then you need the person that does that, right? And so your kids need to catch that in you, right? And another way to put it is like this. You can teach with your words, but you transfer who you are to your kids. And so I could teach all day long. I could lecture all day long to our kids. But if I am not showing them what they need to be, that's just not going to be it.
Well, it also makes me think of that old term, do as I say, not as I do, which my mom always said her father said to them all the time, which is like the worst thing you could say to your kid. Or like, you can't say that, but I'm an adult. I can say that. That is not a good principle to live by.
When you think about it, that's authoritarian parenting. And a lot of, I would say, we call World War II style of parenting is authoritarian. Why? Because I told you to do it. Why? Because you need to. Because I'm your parent. Like, that's not nurturing, right? That's
Correct.
Not nourishing to the parent, to the kid. And so you recognize that your greatest way to influence your kid, or greatest way to be a leader in your child's life, just like in in business, other areas, is you got to model what you want your kid to be.
Well, and I think explaining the why gives the kid more, what's the word I want? Confidence, even of why they can't or can do something.
Because the why matters to the brain.
Yes.
And when we spend time doing that, and then the kid's going to recognize that they matter to you, right? That my parent, I matter so much to my parent that they actually spent the time to explain the why.
I love that. Okay, so number 2, you cannot be too loving. This is a good reminder that love is not weak. It's not enabling our kids. It's actually, I almost feel like it's nourishment. It's food. Like they need it. Their hearts need it.
When you think about this, like our parents grew up with our grandparents, right, as their parents. So So in this case, our grandparents were, once again, they fought the war, right? World War II. And so with that, we know that our parents were considered to be one of the least parents to, or least kids to be said I love you to them, right? And then we come along, right? And they did the opposite. We're considered to be the generation that's been told I love you the most, right? And now we are now raising children, and love is such a big part of it. And what happens is some people, and even our friends that we talk to at times, is we have these conversations around, are we loving too much? Is loving enabling? Is loving like weakening these kids and things like that? And the answer is no, it's not. You can't spoil your kid with love. Now, when it comes to the aspect of, say, like gift giving, or let's say eliminating natural consequences in their lives, well, that's not considered love, right? And so, but we're talking in terms of, I think, verbal affection, I think physical affection, the aspect of leaning into them when things are going hard, or them, recognizing that you're there for them, right? I go back to the aspect of love and respect is so important. And so I think we need to recognize is that we cannot, in so many ways, love enough when it comes to our children. The third one here is be involved in your child's life. Like, show up. It's like the old question, like, do my kids want quantity time or do they want quality time? And I always say they want quantity. They want you more. And so you being present at their games, you showing up to their practices, or you showing up to, like, just, right now I just came back from a birthday party, right? You attending things with them, right? And so it's good for them to know that you show up. Mom and dad are going to be there. Mom and dad are going to be present, and how important that is for our presence, right? Our physical being to be there, which I know for you, a hot subject matter that you always say to me is, get off your phone.
Yeah.
Because I'm not showing up when I'm on my phone. And I'm always like, but it's a emergency, or I'm like, it's for work, or it's for a client or something like that. But I know that's a huge thing that
it's a great point, though, that you said, because you could think you're showing up. I'm in the same room as my kid. We're watching a movie together, but you're on your phone the whole. I'm not saying you. Sorry, I'm just saying in general.
You're right.
But but you as a parent are on your phone the whole time while you think you're spending time with your kids. I think it's very important for us to show up and actually be present. When we play board games with our kids, I really try to make sure my phone is nowhere near me, so I am investing in that time. I'm fully present. Being a student, give me your undivided attention. That means so much more to me now as an adult, understanding undivided. I'm here for you. Of course, there are times where our kids need to know we have things to do, but when we show up fully.
Well, I think too, it's like the art of being on time is gone. And I think one ways that we show up as parents is like with pickups or to drop offs and things like that is early's on time. And we talk about this a lot with our kids, like early's on time, respecting time, but being that parent that shows up early, being that parent that actually is consciously aware that being early to the kid actually honestly models them that we're there to show up and we're there to be there. I also think about the conviction, I think a few months ago when our son wanted to build something with wood, and he came back inside and he built a phone prison for my phone.
This is a true story.
This is an absolute true story. We might have to take a picture of it and put it on Instagram or something like that.
Yeah, it's pretty cute.
But man, if that's not even passive aggressive at that point. That's just him saying it's aggressive. Get off your phone and be present, Dad.
Yeah, so we've set a new rule, when we are doing things like watching a movie or whatever, we even tell the kids our phones are going in phone jail, so they're also aware that we are aware.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
This is the part of our show where we talk about our opinions on the things that we observe. Observe and then respond, don't worry, you cannot be wrong. It's all about the way that your mind works. Observation feedback.
One of the best places to observe people is the park, especially when there are a bunch of toddlers and children running around and not listening to the parents. Don't you think?
Are you talking about parenting at the park?
Parenting at the park, yes. We all know when it's time to go, no kid wants to leave, right? I just got to say, the amount of parents I see that do the countdown, I don't know if they know this, but that doesn't work.
Are you talking about 3, 2, don't let me get to 1?
Don't let me get to 1. Yeah, because we all know nobody's moving on 3 or 2, maybe on 1.
It is fun to watch the parents go to like fractions.
1.5.
That's exactly how she sounded. Here's the interesting thing. We need some type of studies on this to figure out some parents do the count down, some parents do the count up.
Which is more threatening?
1, 2.
Don't let me get to 3. But can we say, let's just explain why this is really not a great method. So your kid's not going to move until you get to that last number. Really, it just needs to be like, we're leaving, you need to come right now. Right?
Yeah, I mean, it's like behavioralism 101, right? The kid has no reward and no consequence for, let's say we're doing a countdown for 3. Why would I go on 3? There's no consequence.
Nope.
There's no consequence at 2.
Nope.
Right? And there's no shame at 1.5 either.
No.
So I think the fact is, it's this right here. Hey, bud, we're leaving right now. And you walk away and you go to the car.
Correct. Actually, what I started doing with our kids is we're about to leave. One more thing. You can pick out one more thing to do.
You could do that. I think that's great. Gives them some, I don't know, control of the situation.
They do their one thing, and then we all go to the park. I mean, the car.
Well, there we go. See, the kid's training you already.
Anyway.
But what do you do when the kid is not going?
Yeah.
Let's say, like, you go to the car, he's still not there.
You just grab them when they're small enough.
Oh, we've done that before. We have no shame in the kicking and screaming. We have no shame. We actually have no shame in what I call public parenting. No shame at all.
Speak for yourself.
Well, we feel the shame, but we do it no matter what.
Usually, yeah.
And at that point, I hand people out my business card. And I say, I can help you with your parenting.
They're like, yeah, bro, no.
Yeah. So what's the moral? Don't count.
Don't count. Just tell your kid to come.
Yeah, don't count down. Just go ahead and leave and by example, or just grab them.
Now back to the show.
Number 4 is adapt your parenting to fit your child. Anyone who has more than one kid knows that your children have completely different personalities. It's kind of fun to look at, same parents, and here we are with these different personalities.
Well, I think we've just got to understand the variables at play. So, for example, you got to parent your kid based on their personality type. We know that we have a kid that's very sensitive, and then we have a kid who's just super gritty, right? Like just one of those, like, all right, you're plowing through a wall, and
carefree too.
Yeah, carefree. And so I think personality, you got to pivot for that and meet them where they're at. I think it matters when it comes to the gender of the child. So, male versus female, like obviously with our boy, we're kind of more, we connected them more in physical ways, and really with our daughter, it's more of a connection point of talk and dialogue, which is always important for her. And I think that's important for us to realize. We can't just have a blanketed way to parent them. We have to be able to meet our child and make those pivots where it's necessary. And you think about even age, like my oldest sister is 10 years older than me. And so when she's 17, my parents are not going to, and I'm 7, they're not going to parent her as if she's 7 or parent me I'm 17. And so I think wise parenting recognizes that and recognizes you got to change it. And it's okay. I think where it gets difficult is when either you have a child who, let's say, has a learning disability, so it's like ADHD or dyslexia or something like that, or if your child has, like, let's say, like a mood disorder, like depression and anxiety, and the other one does not, or another 2 don't, or 3 don't, that sometimes parents get frustrated there, and they don't know what to do with that because at times they feel, is it okay for me to maybe lean in and encourage this one differently, even more so than the other one based on personality type? And the answer is, yeah, that's okay. Things that don't change is expectations.
Right.
Like how we talk to each other, make sure we get done with the jobs around the home, expectation of how we show up at school and things like that, right? Like those are things that I think are just standards we all have. But I think the fact is we have to recognize our parenting has to adapt to the child that's in front of us. Number 5 here is establish and set rules. And I think this has to do with a lot about the aspect of kids really do love discipline. And when they don't have healthy discipline in the home, they start acting out. And they acting out to see, okay, how far can I push this until mom and dad finally lean in and say, okay, stop it. No. And I think a lot of parents have a hard time with this too. And so we have to make sure and understand is that discipline can be one of the greatest forms of love for our kids. That when you give them parameters and give them boundaries, they actually feel secure. They actually feel whole. And when you don't, they're just going to keep expanding themselves in really negative ways until mom and dad say no more.
Almost to like an explosion point too. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like I think even sometimes tantrums are that way for them to basically try in an odd way calling mom and dad in. Right. And they're just wanting to make sure it's like, is mom and dad willing to engage with me? Or are they checking out? And I think about this by our phone stuff. It's like when we're on our phones too much, that's usually when the kids start acting out either with each other or with something or someone. And that's their way of saying, hey guys, like start engaging me, start leaning into me.
Right.
And we see that often.
You've said that before of like our son is definitely more, say, codependent and needy. And the more he acts out on that, a lot of times can just be whatever he's processing, but also that there's a lost connection point between him and myself or him and Joe. Remember you saying that too. So like those rules and disciplines are important to uphold while having that connection point too. So they're not trying to push those boundaries and buttons because they already know that connection's there because they know they matter. They know they're loved. You've been spending that time, like we said, with them.
Well, I think the easiest way to do that is like every family needs to have like we call it like the 10 Commandments, right, of your home, right? And there's even times we actually wrote them down on like a board and put it up so there was a sense of understanding of what they are.
And then we shredded it.
We did. And I think the key is that we actually made adjustments or added to it when we need to because the kids grow. Some things just don't matter, It's like, okay, they outgrew this rule, whatever it may be. So it's pretty fluid. And of course, as the kids then get older, have them have a few says in it. But I think that, families having like a 10 Commandments of the home of our do's and don'ts in so many ways is so important because kids love the aspect of understanding structure and getting it. And that's an easy way for them to connect with us in healthy ways. And it's also an easy way for them to, in so many ways, connect to us in negative ways if we're not paying attention to them the way they need to.
Thanks so much for hanging out with us. For more information and other resources, visit us at theresetgroup.com and make sure to follow us at The Reset Group on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. and welcome to the Reset Podcast. Everything you need to know that your therapist probably never told you. Researched by experts, real life experiences. This is Reset.